Welcome to Off Screen. Let's get cinematic. I'm Van Connor.
And I'm Becks Perfect. And this is your 7-day guide to everything movies. Boom.
Well, boom indoors, sadly, for change, because we are all still confined. So maybe not too big a boom if it's got to be in the living room kind of a thing. We're going to keep it in the living room, obviously, because we don't really got much choice in that.
No, we don't. But that's not such a bad thing. I mean, there's so much great stuff that you can still watch from the comfort of your sofa. I mean, I've been doing nothing but watching shows.
Yeah, I mean, you said you got to watch The Invisible Man as well.
Yeah.
How was that?
Yeah, do you know what? I remember you talking about it. We reviewed it a few weeks ago. And you were raving about it. And I thought, you know what? I really like Elizabeth Moss. I like the concept of it. I wasn't sure about the whole Monsterverse thing from Universal. And I was like, oh, is this going to be a bit sort of Tom Cruise, kind of style? Like whatever that film was, it went so wrong. Anyway.
The Mummy. Which we also reviewed together.
Yeah, we did. And actually, I didn't think much of it, so I can't even really remember it. But this actually was really good because it's more of a horror thriller. It's more of a really good sort of portfolio of acting from Elizabeth Moss, as always. I mean, she's brilliant in everything, but she made this incredibly for something that is essentially a monster film. She made it feel very real, the kind of paranoia, the sort of disbelief from everyone else, her reaction to it. Wasn't so hot on the ending, but actually overall as a movie, I enjoyed it.
I thought it was a really good sort of contemporized, very current, given our current, sexual, socio-political climate, I thought it was a very edgy way to take it. I thought it was a really great movie. I thought turning it into effectively Sleeping with the Enemy for 21st century sci-fi horror, brilliant way to go.
Yeah,
Love
definitely.
That.
Yeah. And what have you been watching, Bab?
You'd recommend?
I definitely recommend.
I've been watching. I watched The Gentleman this week. I was very happy to see that again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what? I was having a really low day because obviously, we're all under the gun a bit with this self-isolation thing. We're all going out of our minds ever so slightly. I was having a really low day, and I watched The Gentleman with my beloved flatmate, and we laughed like gibbons all the way through, and we had a whale of a time. It was the wine was flowing, the Guy Ritchie was firing. It was just a really good movie. Charlie Hunnam's great in it. I think Colin Farrell's a lot of fun in that as well. Matthew McConaughey, best opening line of his career. Give me a pint and a pickled egg. I just had a really great time with that movie. It's something I actually want to watch again. I want to watch that movie a third time. I love the sequence in which Charlie Hunnam goes into the flats where the smackheads live.
Yeah.
And intimidates them all whilst rolling a joint. It's just a tremendous Guy Ritchie scene. I maintain his best film for 20 years. Absolutely worth checking out. You can get that like Invisible Man and The Hunt and Emma and Bloodshot and all these movies. You can see these now on premium video on demand, so you can rent them, I think, for 48 hours for the equivalent of like 20 quid. And,
which some people think
nice
is
alternative to the cinema.
Yeah, and I think some people still think that's quite steep. And I've had a few friends when I told them about the Invisible Man going, "What? £16 on Sky? No thanks." But it's like you'd pay that if you were going to go to the cinema. We're just taking that slightly out of the equation. If you've got a big TV, it's worth the money for a lot of these movies.
Absolutely. I was reading an article myself. I think it was on Dark Horizons, that said they had surveyed a bunch of people. And the optimum price point for premium VOD, most people seem to agree on, was the equivalent of $6, so only £6. But then you think, that's cheaper than going to the cinema. They would never, ever do that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. But, some people are just, quite rightly scrimping and saving and thinking, putting it not with the world of uncertainty that we have ahead of us. It's just something that a lot of people are kind of just being cautious about. But do you know what? Treat yourself every now and again.
Absolutely. And speaking of treating yourself, one thing I did treat myself to, not a film, but I guarantee you this will become a film before long. I treated myself this week to Netflix's much talked about new series, Tiger King.
Oh,
I don't know if you've had the pleasure of this. This is insane, isn't it?
Yeah, it is crazy. I mean, the world of big cat breeding is bonkers in itself. I love the concept of the underworld that is faced by it. So if anyone doesn't know what big cat breeding is, it's essentially breeding lions, tigers, lynxes, like all those things that you shouldn't have privately, right? But a lot of people in the US have more tigers than in the wild, and also the fact is that they can have them in their backyards, in their homes, and they get them as their cubs because they're cute and cuddly, and then suddenly they actually turn into a tiger and they don't know what to do with them. But then there are other people like Joe Exotic, for instance.
Oh yeah.
Joe, what a character, who has his own zoo. There's another guy who's like a guru, but he also has like a harem of women who come as workers and then suddenly turn into his life partners.
Yep.
And then you've got
harem, yep.
Yeah, and then you've got a lady called Carol who basically the other two hate and are spreading all these stories like that she's fed her ex-husband to the tigers and stuff like that. And she's out to kind of get them because even though she's essentially doing the same thing, she's saying that what they're doing is bad.
Yeah.
So it's
she takes it from a humane level, doesn't she? She's like, they're not doing it humanely, and the thing about the series is really the whole appeal is Joe Exotic. It's just as Joe Exotic as a character, he's fascinating.
Well, he's like a bunch of misfits and hicks, just like working for him. He says he picks them up off the street, or they're ex-jailbirds and stuff. It's crazy.
Yeah. Because I knew about Joe Exotic in advance of this, because when we had the 2016 election, he featured on a John Oliver segment, and that segment gets shown in the series. They show the John Oliver segment, and apparently it only made him worse because he then deemed himself to be famous because he'd been on Last Week Tonight with John Oliver.
He was on Louis Theroux as well, I think.
He was. Yeah. That's doing the rounds. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's bonkers. It's that next big documentary from Netflix, isn't it? So Making a Murderer, Wild Wild Country, all those things. It's something yeah, exactly. So there's something, if you're in lockdown, it's 7 episodes and each one has a cliffhanger in the last kind of 15 minutes of it. And it's like, I've got to watch the next one. So definitely worth catching on the small screen if you can.
Mark my words, Will Arnett is just sitting by the phone waiting for his agent to call for the film. Okay, I promise you that is happening. Will Arnett is practicing his handlebar mustache and his mullet as we speak. But there are good things out there. I mean, I've been enjoying my streaming a lot this week. So we've still got a couple of minutes to talk about streaming. I've been enjoying my streaming. I've been enjoying catching up on some recent releases. I think I watched about half of Emma, which I still think is great.
Yes.
I got to see Bloodshot again, which is still exactly as schlocky and goofy.
I'm yet to see that. I'm a big Sam Heughan fan, so I think I'll be watching that sort of when I get a moment. But I'm trying to split my time at the moment because I'm trying to do like one day I'll watch TV, the next day maybe I'll play on my Nintendo Wii. Just to kind of, Donkey Kong is kind of defeating us at the moment. And then one day I'll watch a movie just to kind of spread it out. It's we've got to find a new kind of routine in this new normal, don't we? So it's kind of making sure that you keep things fresh and new and not just like binging everything and then you have nothing to watch. Because we got to remember next year we're going to be quite thin on the ground in terms of TV content, in terms of original TV content and also film content, because everything is being delayed or postponed.
All the productions are. But actually, it's funny you say that, because I think next year is actually now going to be pretty rammed. I think it's 2022 that's going to suffer. So I think 2021 is going to get all the overflow from 2020. So it's going to be a double birth year. And then you'll have 2022 that's going to be like a half birth year, where like half the things have been made in time. So it's going to be a swings and roundabouts. We're going to have a very weird couple of years out of this.
Yeah, we are.
Just in the entertainment industry. Obviously, the world is going to have a weird, couple of decades out of this. But, the film industry will have a weird couple of years because of this. Yeah. And, think about it as well, because, since we last spoke, more films have been delayed. I think it was Morbius got bumped. Peter Rabbit 2 got bumped. Ghostbusters. Yeah. And these have all been bumped to 2021 rather than just to later in the year. Wonder Woman got pushed back. Black Widow got delayed. Interesting times. I say the second half of this year, if life returns to normal, is going to be a busy season for you and I think.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, it feels like a very, very long time ago that we were actually in town actually reviewing a movie. It's just the most bonkers thing. But I'm liking how some of the studios, like I think Universal, for instance, is doing a great job of this, is actually recognizing the situation that we're in and moving their movies to video on demand so that we can still bring you new releases and we can still talk about something along those lines. So hopefully we'll be seeing more video on demand movies that we can review for you in advance, as soon as possible. But until now, Universal most definitely is leading the way.
Exactly. Well, I mean, so that's there's a lot of stuff on streaming. There's enough to occupy you for the time. You've got premium VOD rentals as well, which obviously are worth checking out. Definitely check out Invisible Man and The Hunt as well, which I thought was
Yeah,
was
good
was a
fun.
good time.
And as you mentioned, Emma.
And Emma, yes. But in the meanwhile, again, I guess we better get on with the show and talk about films we get to watch on Freeview.
Okie dokie. So we are kicking off the next section of our podcast today with movies on TV. So you know you're not going to move from your sofa, but there's loads of stuff on Freeview that you guys can check out if you so wish. And we're going to kick off with something that I think if life couldn't get more different, then this movie reflects it in that kind of way. So no, I'm not talking about Contagion, which actually did get a lot of Ofcom complaints when it was out on ITV2.
Did it?
Yeah, a huge amount of complaints, but actually a huge amount of praise as well for them understanding the humour in all of showing something like that. But we're not here to talk about that. We are talking about your Saturday night viewing. And if you love this movie, as I'm sure most of us did, you're going to be excited to see this on ITV at 10 o'clock. It is Inception.
Oh, I love Inception. This was one of my favourite movies of, was it 2011 or 2012 when Inception came out?
It's surprisingly a long time ago when it came out. So forward thinking for its time. Christopher Nolan movie. We've got Leonardo DiCaprio. We've got who else? Joseph Gordon-Levitt? No.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Yeah. He's in it. Tom Hardy is in it. Cillian Murphy's in it. It's Michael Caine, Ken Watanabe. What's her name? Juno. Ellen Page.
Ellen Page, yeah.
Yeah. Just a phenomenal film. So this is the reality bending, inner mind movie. So this is basically a heist movie in someone's mind, effectively. Yeah. The idea being that Ken Watanabe hires DiCaprio's, mind-incepting crew to basically hack into, I think it is Cillian Murphy's brain, as he's on a flight, to try and incept an idea in his mind that he will think that he's come up with on his own. I think this is all in the name of corporate espionage, but of course DiCaprio is sort of a fugitive. He's barred from entering the US. The whole thing is this will be his final mission. We've got a clip of them setting this plan, this elaborate Machiavellian scheme in motion.
We need at least a good 10 hours.
Sydney to Los Angeles. One of the longest flights in the world. He makes it every 2 weeks.
Well, you must be flying private then.
Not if there were unexpected maintenance we're displaying.
It would have to be a 747.
Why is that?
So a 747, the pilot's up top, the first class cabin's in the nose, so no one would walk through. But you'd have to buy out the entire cabin and the first class flight attendant.
I bought the airline. It seemed neater.
It looks like we have our 10 hours. Ariadne, terrific work, by the way.
It's a vintage Nolan film, really, isn't it?
It really is. And I think you do have to be awake to watch this. There's a lot of things you need to take in. It's on at 10 o'clock on ITV, but you have to kind of not be snoozy when you're watching this because
it's long as well.
It's long. It's a shame they're putting it on quite late, but maybe you can record it and watch it at a little bit more of a useful time for yourself. But it's not worth missing any details in this because certain things won't make sense if you do. So
no, I don't think so.
Yeah. So look, but it's a thoroughly brilliant film. Great cast, fantastic director, incredible storyline. Watch it on the biggest TV that you've got, so you can really take in the visuals.
Amazing cinematography, like you say, those visuals. Amazing cinematography from Wally Pfister, who would go on to direct Transcendence, making directorial with Transcendence. I think that was a year later. That would put this in 2013. I'm sure Inception came out that same summer with Gravity and things. Yeah. But absolutely worth seeing. So ITV, 10 o'clock Sunday night. Check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, next up, we have A Monster Calls, which, I loved this film when it came out. It was absolutely...
I thought you might.
Yeah, it was absolutely beautiful and heartwarming and, just a really stunning film. So this is on BBC One. Again, a late one, 10:30 p.m. It's hard because you really want more people to see these films. When they're putting it on so late, you kind of question what the motive is there. But
I've got a theory. I've got a theory that they're doing this because if you look at our picks, they're nearly all after 9 p.m. I think because of the way things are at the moment, people aren't generally sleeping as regularly as they did when things were normal.
Possibly.
So I think people are going to bed later, waking up later. So I think that's why the film's... Because A Monster Calls is arguably a family-friendly film.
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. I mean, it's basically about a boy who seeks the help of a tree monster to cope with his mother's terminal illness. The mother being played by the brilliant Felicity Jones in this. The stunning kind of child acting from Lewis McDougall, who plays the young boy in it, is incredible. And the animation is just divine. So
there's an almost Del Toro-ish, an almost Guillermo del Toro-ish tone to this as well. The way it uses fantastical imagery and sort of the horrors of the human condition, things like that, you know, to explore suffering and grief and things like that. The fact they've got Liam Neeson as the voice of the tree, perfect. In fact, I tell you what, let's have a little sample of Liam as a tree.
What took you so long? It is time for me to tell you the first tale.
I don't need a tale. I need a bus ticket for my grandma.
It is time for me to tell you Where do you think you're going? I will be listened to. I am as old as this land, and I will...
What do you know about anything?
I know everything about you, Connor O'Malley.
No, you don't. If you did, you know I don't have time to listen to stupid stories from a stupid tree that is just a dream.
A dream? What is a dream, Connor O'Malley? And who is to say that it is not everything else that is a dream?
that wasn't a sentence you'd expect to say in any of our podcasts, was it?
No, it was a tree.
Well,
but no, very worth checking out.
Yeah, definitely. It's also got Sigourney Weaver in it as the grandma in this as well.
Terrible accent.
Well, yeah. I mean, look, let's give it its dues where we can. Probably not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But overall, if you haven't seen this before, it's a beautiful movie to watch and definitely worth your time and attention.
Shame about the time of day, but definitely worth checking out. As I say. So we move to Monday then, because I think you'll like Monday's pick as well.
Oh, do you know what? I watched this quite recently. I think my other half was out and it was on TV, and I was like, I'll just catch the first 15 minutes of it. And then before I knew it, it was the whole movie I was watching. And it's Notting Hill on 5 Star at 9 o'clock. Again, if you need some sort of not light entertainment, but something that's just uplifting, I think you can't go wrong with like a Richard Curtis classic. So
well, that's it, isn't it? It's a vintage late 90s Richard Curtis rom-com, and of course it's the original concept, isn't it? It's the everyman, Hugh Grant, although when is Hugh Grant ever considered as sort of an everyman type? Hugh Grant's the everyman who falls in love with, the Hollywood megastar played by Julia Roberts, which is perfect casting, by the way.
Yes.
And, before we get to everything that's great about it, let's just have the clip of Hugh Bonneville embarrassing himself.
Always imagined it's a pretty tough job, though, acting. I mean, the wages are a scandal, aren't they?
They can be.
I see friends from university, clever chaps, been in the business longer than you. They're scraping by on 7,000-8,000 a year. It's no life. What sort of acting do you do?
Films, mainly.
Oh, splendid. Oh, well done. How's the pay in movies? I mean, last film you did, what did you get paid?
$15 million.
Right.
Hugh Bonneville, pre-Pattinson, ladies and gentlemen.
So brilliant, and just such brilliantly British humour, timed to perfection, and everything. I can't really fault this movie. It's one of those ones. It's a classic for a reason. It stays in your mind. It's so quotable, brilliantly acted, and just one that you're going to want to revisit again and again and again. So that is on 5 Star, 9 o'clock on Monday.
So one that I will revisit over and over again. It's one of my favourite comedies. One of my favourite comedies of this century. It is, of course, 2004's Dodgeball, a true underdog story, which Film 4 is showing on Tuesday nights at 11:15 p.m. Now, most people have seen this.
Yes.
But it's one of those films that I think you can go back and revisit every few years once you've forgotten it, and you'll fall in love with it all over again. Great cast that includes Vince Vaughn, back when he was good, Ben Stiller, Justin Long, I think it's Christine Taylor, Ben Stiller's wife at the time, I think, from The Wedding Singer. One of my favourite people to see in a rom-com. And also Stephen Root, I think, is in there. Alan Tudyk is Steve the Pirate.
So many great actors in this.
Rip Torn. I mean, Rip Torn as Patches O'Houlihan. And I tell you what, I love Rip Torn so much, I have to play a clip of Rip Torn. Bear with me.
You're going to learn to be true dodgeballers. Then you've got to learn the 5 Ds of dodgeball. Dodge, duck, dip, dive, and dodge. If you master the 5 Ds, no amount of balls on earth can hit you.
Shouldn't we, learn by dodging balls that are thrown at us, or...?
That's what this sack of wrenches is for. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
What?
Nice.
You can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball.
Nice,
love
nice.
Yep.
Yeah, you got to love him. And you know what? Again, it's one of those films that if you haven't seen it in a good decade or so, you're going to want to pick this one back up. So Film 4, 11:15 p.m. It's going to be there.
How weird now is that Lance Armstrong cameo at the end of Dodgeball?
Oh, so weird.
It's so weird.
Almost as weird as every single TV program that I'm watching where I see people shake hands, hug each other, or have a kiss. It just feels bonkers. Welcome back to Off Screen. We are continuing your week of movies on Freeview, and we are starting off on Wednesday evening. So again, another late one. As we discussed, everything's going a little bit later for you all, but this is a good one to stay up for. So this is War for the Planet of the Apes on 4/7 at 9 p.m. So that's a lot of numbers there. 4/7.
We never get a 4/7. There's never movies on 4/7.
I know. So for anyone who doesn't know, that is a channel, 4/7. It's not just
it's one of the four family. Yeah.
Yeah. What a film, War for the Planet of the Apes. I mean, Andy Serkis, how he has not won Oscars for his roles in this is just incredible.
I know. And obviously we talked about Dawn of the Planet of the Apes quite recently. That was part 2 of the new trilogy, as we tend to call it. This is, of course, the trilogy closer. These can all be watched in standalone sort of offerings, though, really. War for the Planet of the Apes was 2 years ago now? Was it 2018?
I feel like it's slightly longer than that. We'll have to check that one out. But either way, it is, it's one of those movies that just sticks with you. It's incredible performances. Again, seeing it in the cinema, as we were able to do once upon a time, was just incredible. But actually, if you can catch this and just turn the lights off, give yourself as much of a cinematic surroundings as possible, you're going to really, really enjoy this. It's actually 2017 this was out. So
it's 2017.
Yeah.
Wow, that is. Okay, I thought it was more recent than that. I really love this film. I think it's a really great trilogy closer. Woody Harrelson, I think he's the villain in this, isn't he? He's the colonel or the general or whatever.
As ever, terrifying.
Of course, because he's doing that full shaven-headed, snarling, sunglasses indoors when it's night kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But the whole premise here is that literally this is, the apes on the defensive for a change, rather than, on the offensive, or being perceived to be on the offensive or on the defensive. Following the death of several key members of the ape family, personal to, Caesar, ruler of the apes, who sets out for revenge as his people set off on their own quest for salvation, as it were. And just great effects, great visuals. Matt Reeves' direction, terrific as ever. Michael Giacchino's score absolutely slays. Big fan of Steve Zahn as Bad Ape, as the new character Bad Ape. I think he's terrific. And of course, there's some nifty little tie-ins in this one as well to the classic apes mythology. They have the character of Nova, for instance, who gets introduced as a little girl. And I thought that was all really good. And also it ends in such a way that you think, okay, I could take this as the end of this trilogy, or I could take it as the jumping off point for an entirely new set of stories. It works either way. It's a brilliant movie.
It was a very, very fitting, for me, it was a very fitting end to the trilogy. I'm happy to kind of leave it as it is. But in terms of leaving it as it is, you definitely don't want to do it with our next movie, which is on Thursday night. This is a classic that you, again, go and visit again and again. Goodfellas, of course. ITV4, 10:05 p.m. If you haven't got this in your own collection and you're thinking, I need to revisit it, hit the record button so you can come back again and again and watch this. What a classic movie. I mean, this is what... you kind of get so excited when The Irishman came out, because seeing all these amazing actors come back together again. It's based on the fact that Goodfellas is so iconic.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's currently. I was talking about this with Jamie East the other day. We were talking about streaming offerings, and Goodfellas was my pick for what you should watch on Netflix. So you now have the opportunity. If you don't have Netflix as well, you can see it on ITV4, and it's absolutely one of these stone cold classic benchmarks of the cinematic mobster gangster subgenre. There's so many great bits in it. As Jamie pointed out to me, he remembers Goodfellas prominently for the food. The sequence in which we get told at length about how the mob prepare their food, how they slice garlic with a razor blade. In fact, tell you what, let's go there right now.
Johnny Dio did the meat. We didn't have a broiler, so Johnny did everything in pans. I used to smell up the joint something awful, and the hacks used to die, but he still cooked a great steak.
Vinny, how do you like yours? Rare, medium rare. Medium rare? An aristocrat.
See, you know, when you think of prison, you get pictures in your mind of all those old movies with rows and rows of guys behind bars. But it wasn't like that for Wise Guys. It really wasn't that bad, except that I missed Jimmy. He was doing his time in Atlanta.
Vinny, give me 2 steaks while you're in there, all right, John? Sure enough, she goes in a...
I mean, everybody else in the joint was doing real time, all mixed together, living like pigs. But we lived alone. I mean, we own the joint.
I love that Ray Liotta voiceover. Like, voiceover should not be as good as Ray Liotta's is in this.
Do you know what? I might even suggest that I just drag this out of the archives and watch it tonight. I don't think I can wait till next week. I think to watch this, it's one of those films that's just going to get you really, really good. I mean, Joe Pesci in this his scenes are just, absolute. I think scene stealing, but also I think he won the Oscar. Yeah, Oscar for an actor in a supporting role for this. He won, and it was just. You can see why. There's everything in this that is just so brilliant. So if you haven't seen it, who are you? If you have seen it, you better watch it again ASAP is what I think.
I remember there being genuine controversy when this came out, because I think it was Joe Pesci's next film after Home Alone, I think it was.
Oh,
and
goodness.
There was genuine contention as to whether or not they could sell a family film, starring the guy from Goodfellas, or whether or not they would take him seriously having been in Home Alone or something like that. But, he managed it. And also, he then got acclaim again, I think about a year or so later, when he did My Cousin Vinny, which is still one of my childhood faves.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, it's nothing but, you can't say he's not diverse in his roles.
He definitely diversifies his portfolio, doesn't he?
Now we're moving on to another classic of a movie. This is on BBC One at a slightly earlier time of 6:40 p.m. This rounds off your week on Friday. It is, of course, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Oh, what a movie. What a way to kind of finish the week off. Every time there's an Indiana Jones movie on TV, I have to watch it.
Not the fourth one, presumably.
Oh, no, but that's never on TV.
Yeah. It's true. Thankfully, Crystal Skull is never on telly, so you can ignore it.
Yeah, and also, the newer one is being delayed, the one that they're thinking of filming, but that's nothing to do with coronavirus. It's just a problem, and it's just being delayed even more. So I'm really looking forward to watching this again. Again, it just doesn't date, does it? You can just watch it and enjoy it. And it still feels relevant.
Yeah, Raiders absolutely holds up. I mean, we all remember kind of that first childhood experience of seeing Raiders of the Lost Ark as well.
Yeah.
I think I was about 7 or 8. I mean, do you remember how old you were when you saw Raiders of the Lost Ark?
Yeah, I think I was probably about the same age, to be honest.
And you remember that great iconic opening, with the idol. He has to put the sand down and he has to run away from the boulder and grabs his hat from the falling door, and the snakes in the plane, literally the original snakes in the plane. It's just one of the seminal action adventures of cinema as a concept, really. I mean, obviously, it had been around before. We had the serials of the 1940s that this harks back to, but that had been defunct as a genre for so long that by the time they wheeled this out in, I think it was 81, 82.
I was going to say 83, but I could be wrong. We'll have to have a look.
I know it won't be 83 because Temple of Doom is 85. I think it's 85, 81,
yeah, it's 81.
89.
Yeah, this is 81 for you. So, gosh, it doesn't feel like 1981. It's crazy. And I mean, I love Karen Allen in this. I love, she's brilliant in this. I like her opening sequence as well, where and correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm thinking of a different film, but it's where she's having the drinking contest.
Yes, it is. Of course, she gets enlisted to help, archaeologist / university professor Henry Indiana Jones, go on a quest at the behest of the U.S. government to basically beat the Nazis on the trail of the Ark of the Covenant. So I've got a snippet for you.
Good God. Yes, that's just what the Hebrews thought. Now what's that supposed to be coming out of there?
Lightning. Fire. Power of God or something.
Beginning to understand Hitler's interest in this. Oh, yes. The Bible speaks of the Ark leveling mountains and laying waste to entire regions. An army which carries the Ark before it is invincible.
It's that John Williams score as well, isn't it? It's so creepy and atmospheric, and at the same time so romping and powerful, and it's up-tempo. Great movie all around. This is, for me, one of the definitive masterworks of blockbuster cinema.
Yes, 100%. You know, fantastic cast once again. Like John Rhys-Davies is in there as Salah.
Oh, Salah, yeah.
Yeah, and Paul Freeman. Paul Freeman as Belloc in this as well, like the Belgian priest,
yes.
Who excellent face melting at the end.
He does, but you know, when you get Paul Freeman in a movie, you've got to have a certain amount of ooziness, because years later he's got to turn up as the villain in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie. So you know, the entire film history is geared around this inevitable career development that's going to come sooner or later. But of course, Indiana Jones kind of changed the game, really, didn't it? It's one of the original benchmarks of what we nowadays define as the blockbuster summer movie. This is one of the originals. And we're back. And because we don't have much choice, we're going to keep it in your living room. So movies you can watch at home. So available on DVD and Blu-ray from this coming Monday, the 6th of April. We have, of course, none other than Elizabeth Banks' recent reboot of Charlie's Angels. You and I had the pleasure of this, didn't we, Becks?
We did indeed. Starring Elizabeth Banks, produced by, directed by, written by Elizabeth Banks. It's like if you're ever gonna make a movie, you might as well have your name on it 4 times. It's quite incredible what she's done.
It really is. And actually, to be honest with you, I quite like the film. I know it got an absolute kicking when it came out, but I rather liked it, I gotta admit.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I rolled when I saw the critics' responses. I was like, you know what? What's the point of you even going to see it? Because you always knew what you were going to go and rate this. It's just, you know, there's no sort of like ability to be sort of unbiased in this. People just didn't really want to go and see it. And actually, do you know what? The audience, unfortunately, I think it was kind of in an overly saturated time period. But actually, if you revisit this again, or you're revisiting it for the first time and see it for what it is, I think it's a really fun movie. It's well acted by, you know, Kristen Thomas. No, not Kristen Scott Thomas. What am I on about? Kristen Stewart.
The other Kristen. Stewart.
Yeah, the other Kristen. Kristen Stewart. Naomi Scott's in there as well. Elizabeth Banks, obviously. And do you know what? It's got girl power. It's got good action sequences. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It pays homage to the older films as well, and also the TV show. And I think it does a good job. It's what you expect it to be.
I'm kind of getting this, you know, you guys are like lady spies, and I just need you to explain who this guy is and why was he shooting at you?
Oh, he was shooting at you.
At me?
The shooter's a ghost. Your file says that you are a systems engineer on the Callisto project.
You know about Callisto?
We know about a lot of things. That you graduated top of your class at MIT, that you take Krav Maga on Sundays, you ride your bike to work, you think yellow is one of your colors when in fact it's no one's. That you could be dating a lot more if you played up those cheekbones in your online profile pictures. What we don't know is why someone wants you dead.
And you know, I like that acerbic wit. I like the way that it's absolutely not afraid to lean into its contemporary sense of femininity and girl power, and it doesn't ignore certain events that are taking place in the world as regards the treatment of women. I think it does a fairly good job. I think it goes a little bit ham-handed at times, where it tries to turn literally every male character into a caricature. But and they're always exactly the same caricature as well. I mean, there's one actor in this who I just never thought I would see playing a role like that. But I love it. I like the style of it. I like the tone of it. I like the sort of musical edge of it. Its musical sensibilities, its visual styles all work for me. I like the the OTT intro in which Kristen Stewart's just hanging off the side of a helicopter and just chatting merrily. I also really like Ella Balinska as I think she's the British Angel, isn't she?
Yeah.
The young British Angel, whom, by the way, if Marvel ever need casting ideas for Storm in the X-Men, her, please. But that is available on DVD and Blu-ray from Monday the 6th, as we say. So let's move over to streaming then for the week, because we've got 3, I think, decent caliber ones to talk about this week.
There's one that I'm looking forward to talking about. There's one that I've never heard of, which is this one, which is Coffee and Kareem, which is on Netflix from Friday.
Yeah, so from Friday the 3rd, which is obviously this is today. This is a new movie, because I didn't know about this. They didn't wheel out the trailer until the 11th hour, and yet it looks surprisingly good. It is a movie in which Ed Helms is a sort of doughy schlub copper. I think his name actually is Coffee. He's going out with Taraji P. Henson, and he is caught by her 12-year-old son in bed with her one morning. The son tries to embarrass him, and they wind up, the pair of them, forced to team up on the run from an army of drug lords. Just looks absolutely foul-mouthed, very Good Boys type, the Good Boys meets Pineapple Express kind of a thing. Very foul-mouthed, R-rated, very in-your-face, very inappropriate, don't watch it with your grandmother kind of thing.
The poster for it looks very sort of 70s cop show kind of like feel. I quite like the poster. I'm sort of buying into it already. I mean, don't expect this to be highbrow in the slightest. This is going to be something that just, you know, is going to tickle your fancy for a weekend, I think, and just, you know, something easy to watch.
I think so. I absolutely think so. Speaking of easy to watch, then, over on Amazon Prime from Saturday the 4th, because we've already had one trilogy capper from The Apes, let's have a trilogy capper from The Butler. Let's talk about Angel Has Fallen, which hits Amazon Prime on Saturday, the third installment of the iconic Has Fallen series, which began, of course, with Olympus, and then took us to London, in which all of London's major known landmarks were destroyed, but not the unknown ones. And now, of course, rather than actually taking down a location, they're taking down the man himself. So it's all about terrorists going after Gerard Butler and trying to frame him for assassinating the president. Do you have the pleasure of this one when it was on?
I did. And do you know what? I feel like every week we talk about a something has fallen. And do you know what? And I'm happy for it. I'm excited because I really enjoyed this one. This is the more serious of the trilogy. It's a bit more brooding. There's a couple of incredible action sequences in this. There's a drone sequence above a lake, which is amazing, where they're basically out to essentially kill everyone from the presidential party in this one sort of dramatic sequence. But for me, this is what the true joy of the Fallen. Has Fallen sort of trilogy is the laugh at itself sequences. So for instance, you know that Gerard Butler's got a little twinkle in his eye when he's delivering certain lines because he just knows that we're all going to take the mick out of it, and that's what makes it work. This one takes itself a little bit more seriously, and maybe is thinking it was a trilogy. Are we going to carry on the franchise? We need to kind of take a different route with it.
How did you find me?
I want security for the president. How do you think? You've been here the last 5 years. North Carolina before that. Alaska before that.
You see, that's Big Brother for you.
No. Actually, it was just me wondering if you were still alive.
Did you do it?
You'd like it if I did, wouldn't you? Dad.
And of course, they get to introduce Nick Nolte as Gerard Butler's dad. What amazing casting that is.
Yeah.
I should mention, like you were saying about, do we take this as the end of the trilogy? I think the producer of this has recently announced he sees another entire trilogy being made out of this.
Do you know what? I see this could go on for years. If Gerard Butler wants to do it, I'm game to watch it. I think
this is going to wind up with like Michigan Has Fallen, isn't it? This is the way this is going to go.
Every
this
state
like
has
fallen.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what?
The Antarctic has fallen.
Do you know what? It's got a formula that works though for its audience, and that's why they've managed to make 3 of these already. So if it's going to work again, they might as well just crack on with it because it is enjoyable and it's silly, it's throwaway, it's absolutely, one of those ones that you kind of take with a pinch of salt. But if you need to kind of while away 2 hours, do it with this movie because it's got everything you want from a almost homage to the 90s action movies of the time because it just has everything in it that you could enjoy.
And without going into too many spoilerific details, it does end with the most hilariously out of place slapstick comedy post-credit scene. You're just like, why have you done this? Like, Gerard Butler is a producer on this. How did he sign off on this? I mean, that man starred in Geostorm. He knows better. But anyway, let's not leave it there, though. Let's leave it with a return from an old friend, your friend to the end. It is, of course, Chucky. Child's Play, the remake, is arriving on Netflix next Friday, the 10th of April. This starred Aubrey Plaza and had Mark Hamill, I believe, as the voice of Chucky, who's now no longer a good guy doll. He's a buddy doll. He's a smart doll. I don't know what child would want one of these. It's a small doll that moves and talks and walks around your house. Apparently, a 12-year-old boy would want one of these, according to this film.
Wow.
Let's have a little sample.
Chucky is a toy, okay? It broke, you
No,
got rid of it.
Mom, I saw him. I saw him following Doreen.
No, you didn't. Listen to what you're saying.
Mom, he's gonna kill her.
Chucky.
Why aren't you listening to me? I have it on Omar's phone. He's following Doreen. I can show you.
Why do you have Omar's phone?
I took it.
Why?
I had to. I had to follow Chucky, Mom.
Okay.
I'm not crazy, Mom.
Stay right here, okay?
Mom!
And you're coming to work with me.
He's trying to kill us!
No one ever believes the doll did it theory, did they?
No, they don't. And actually, this for me has like terrifying nostalgia. I watched the first ever Child's Play probably when I was way too young, at like 6.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, with my cousins, my older cousins, and they were like, "Let's watch this movie about a doll," and sat there. I couldn't sleep for days afterwards. I just remember that. So I've never really taken like a shining light to Chucky.
No.
They have got silly and funny as it's gone along, but to be honest, for me, I just think it's something that was always embedded in my brain as something that I just was terrified of as a kid. But that's part of the appeal, right?
Yeah, I mean, did you get a chance to watch this remake when it was out?
I
This was
didn't,
what,
no.
Late summer last year, I think.
Yeah. I did see it come out, and I thought, do you know what? I can take it or leave it. I think I'm going to leave it.
Well, now you don't have to, because on Netflix you can simply watch it on queue. So
joy.
that's available from Friday the 10th. I recommend it. I think it's got some decent things going for it. Personally, I think if it hadn't been called Child's Play, it would have been a terrific film.
Yeah.
I think calling it Child's Play is its weakest point, to be honest, because it has exactly naff all to do with Child's Play. There's no Charles Lee Ray. There's no murdered. There's no. Was he a murdered rapist? I think he was originally, or something like that.
Who knows? I was 6, remember?
Oh, true. I think Freddie was the child murderer. Charles Lee Ray was just a rapist, I think.
Great.
But, they all get killed and come back. Only bad people come back when they die, apparently. But so yeah, that's another helpful week of streaming offerings for you. In the meanwhile, don't forget there's loads of things on there. Goodfellas, as we say, is on streaming. I think I was talking about Green Book being on Prime the other day.
Oh wow!
You can find that on Prime. That's worth watching.
Definitely.
I was disappointed to discover that Amazon Prime has dropped Demolition Man from its library, because I was looking forward to revisiting that. Just because we keep running out of toilet paper, and I want to know how the 3 seashells thing works. But anyway, so that kind of caps it off for another week of cinematic fun from us, Miss Perfect.
Yes, it is indeed. And don't worry, we'll have plenty more for you next week. So don't go anywhere. Just stay tuned with us. We'll be able to keep you up to date with everything that you can watch on your small screen whilst we're all locked in and wondering what on earth to do with ourselves.
In the meanwhile, so thanks from me. I've been Ben Connor.
And I've been Becks Perfect. And this has been Off Screen, your 7-day guide to everything movies. Boom.